Hi everybody, Mark Washburn here from PondAlgaeSolutions.com. In today's pond tip video, I wanted to talk about several things that you can do to help control green water issues in ponds. And these would be ideally non-chemical solutions to this issue of single cell algae. Now, green water, when you see it visually in a pond, is made up of many single cell algae. The density of these little creatures is what will determine how green the pond will get. It could be from a light tint, which you can see completely through, to something like a soup, which you absolutely can't see an inch down into the water, and it's all based on the density of the algae that's present. Now, green water can affect any size of pond, from small water gardens to large lakes. They generally, and I say generally, will not harm fish, and the reason I mention this is many small pond owners get concerned that their fish will suffer for it, and in most cases they don't. Now, where you will run into problems sometimes is when you try to treat this issue chemically, and perhaps you'll kill off too much algae with poor aeration, and you can harm fish that way, or you could get a spike in copper concentrations in the water, which is toxic to fish as well. So it's for this reason, particularly with small ponds, that chemical algicides are, at least in our opinion, not the best potential treatment for green water issues. The good news is there are a number of natural solutions that can often help with the problem, either singularly or in combination. Now, I want to go through some of the top ones that we found that help with green water problems. This is by no means a complete or extensive list, and we're going to go through these very quickly just to give you an idea of what can possibly help. The first thing we like to suggest for small ponds particularly is adding desirable plants, water lilies, floating plants that can sit on the surface and provide more shading. If you have just a few of these in place or none at all, consider adding enough to get about 30% coverage over the surface to start with, and go up from there if you need to. The sun plays a major role in green water problems, and we see this time and time again in ponds that get full exposure throughout the day of a lot of sun, and so adding plants to provide shade will help. Also, in combination with this, a consistent use of a beneficial bacteria product will oftentimes help as well. The reason is that we've got two components that help algae grow. We've got sun, which we can address. We've got nutrient issues, high nutrient loads from things like fish waste or other organic substances breaking down. These can create nutrient spikes in the water which feed algae, and so by doing these two things, desirable plants, making sure you get good bacterial counts in the pond, those two things can often help. Barley straw historically may be a tool that you could use to help prevent algae outbreaks, although university studies show that it is somewhat inconsistent in how it works. Some ponds respond very favorably to it, other ones not at all, and it does work best as a preventative rather than a treatment, meaning that you want to get either barley straw, barley pellets, liquid barley extract in place before algae is present, or at least very bad. In terms of mechanical solutions, UV ultraviolet light is one of the #1 things for green water issues. When you hear this tool talked about in terms of algae control, it's specifically about green water. It won't help with string algae because it can't pass through the tube where the light resides. But UV works by damaging the algae and making it clump together, or killing it outright, and then in combination with a good quality biofilter system, the filter has a better chance of grabbing these clumps of algae. As single cells, they could conceivably pass through this entire system unaffected, and so by making it bigger you get better filtration. UV is one of those things that it does require some upkeep. Many people have UV installed, but they still have a problem with green water, and when you see this, the first things to look at are how fresh is the bulb in the tube. UV light needs to be changed out probably after about 12 to 14 months of operational life of the bulb. So if you try to extend this out too far, the effectiveness is diminished. Also, the flow rate through these needs to be about the full water gallon volume of the pond once per hour. You want to get multiple passes through these systems for the most part on a daily basis. And while the manufacturer's suggestions will vary, at least in terms of the Aqua UV that we like to work with, it's once per hour, 24 hours a day. It's this continuous cycling through and exposure to the light that will ultimately damage the most algae and provide the best filtration. If you have too high a flow rate as well, you may find that you're not getting as good of coverage, and so you may want to try adjusting this speed if necessary. If you're not getting good results, you're at the recommended rate, and you can slow the flow rate down a little bit. Try to do that and see if you can allow a little bit slower pass through the UV, and it may help control things better. Now, for large water, one of the best tools we've found is ultrasound systems. I don't generally recommend this for smaller ponds as much, but for large waters, large lakes, ultrasound can help on green water issues in many cases. It is not 100%, and we do like to do an algae analysis to see what species and types of algae you have in a pond first, but if this matches up to a database of successful treatments and algae types, then oftentimes we can get very good control. And again, we're able to do this cost effectively, relatively speaking, compared to chemical additives and things like that. And so ultrasound has definitely been one of our favorite tools for larger water. So I hope that this provides some degree of at least initial direction for folks that are having trouble with green water problems. It is a very common issue in ponds, particularly as the summer comes along, and so hopefully this will provide some information for you to work with. And as always, if you have additional questions that we can help with, just email us at pondalgaesolutions.com. You can find our contact info on the site there, and we're happy to try to help you with your pond. And hope this helps, and have a great day wherever you are.